Hi viewers, this is Vineet and today we are going to talk about one of the biggest investment that has happened in the field of artificial intelligence, and it is a seed investment of 6 million US dollar backed by Sequoia Capital. With me today I have got Ankit, he is an expert in artificial intelligence, and we have got Deepinder, who is the man behind this entire entrepreneurial idea, and with him he has got his co-founders. So Deepinder, can you introduce yourself to the viewers?
Great, thanks, Vineet. Really appreciate being here. So I've spent about 20 years in the industry across many areas in India and in US. I started my career with a company called I2 Technologies in the supply chain planning space, where I was developing and deploying a lot of demand forecasting, demand planning, inventory optimization solutions for CPG companies and retailers across US and Europe. There we were applying some of the most advanced mathematical methods at that time, back in the 2000s era, econometric models, operations research models to optimize supply chains. That was the start. Then I worked for a couple of startups, one notably called Demantra in the trade promotions planning space, optimizing the trade promotion spend between CPG companies and retailers. And then a startup called Spotfire in the visual analytics platform space that was acquired by Tipco. Then I spent about 8 to 9 years as part of the early leadership team at Mu Sigma, where we helped grew it to be a unicorn. I started in 2009, exited in 2017, and we were successful in building it to be one of the best analytics companies in the world, becoming a unicorn through multiple rounds of investment, and that was a great journey. And then most recently, prior to Samya, I was chief product officer at a company called Noodle.ai. In the enterprise AI space, focusing a lot on the manufacturing industry. So spent about 20 years across the big data analytics space, advanced supply chain planning, business planning, and then over the past many years in the artificial intelligence and machine learning space. I'm an engineer by training. I graduated from IIT Kanpur in '98, and then I did a master's in the US as well in chemical engineering, both in chemical engineering. Yeah.
Your journey is totally crazy, wherein 20 years of experience you have in different industries. What made you decide that you have to get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it definitely sounds a bit crazy. Sometimes even I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But I think, on a more serious note, I think entrepreneurship, yes, there is the problem space. You identify a problem that you get obsessed about, right? You know that you can solve it.
Yeah.
But it's not getting solved. Right? And you try to convince the people that you're actually working with in the past that this is how it will solve it, and for whatever reason, right, it doesn't work out. So you get very obsessive, compulsive about solving the problem, and you have a very deep sense of intuition as to that this is the way to solve the problem. Yes, you have to figure out many things, right? Not everything is clear, but there is this, you have this, you have this vision that you can solve the problem. But it's also very personal, right? Because I think for me, as I look to my, how I grew up and, what drives me, it's always been that, I was lucky to be in a family where my father was first in service, working for a company for many, many years. And he took a premature retirement, and then he started business after age 50. Right, and that was always very, I always surprised like how he could do that, right? That's number one. So I had some role model there. But I think more interestingly for me it was, I worked with many startups in the early stage, mid stage, late stage startups. I've seen founders building something from zero, right? They built just based on the belief in their idea, the purpose that they had, built something from 0 to 1 from scratch, right? Sacrificing a lot in terms of their family life, their work-life balance, the tremendous amount of things that you have to go to, thinking about funding, thinking about employees, thinking about the legal aspects or compliance aspects of a company, talking to investors, talking to boards, talking to customers, right? Trying to convince and persuade customers to even, it's a very tough job, right? And for me, it always, that was always a seed that was there in me that I wanted to do that for myself, right? And so even after 20 years, I thought that, I've been around startups, I've been around founders, great teams, but I want that 0 to 1 journey for myself, right? And prove to myself that we can do this, right? Along with my co-founders, right? And so that was something that it's tough to explain, but something that compels you to actually take this life as an entrepreneur, and despite all the trials and tribulations around it, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, very enriching and rewarding. Every day you go through emotional up and down, right? You can't anticipate what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You make a lot of plans, but the plans never pan out, right? But it's something that you want to do for yourself, right? And so that's what maybe drove me into this. Yeah.
Deepinder, your story is crazy. Wherein my audience definitely they must be understanding the real pain that an entrepreneur goes through, wherein he has to sacrifice so much. He or she has to sacrifice so much for the idea that he believes in.
So, Deepinder, I was reading a little bit about Samya, and first of all, let me congratulate you. It's a great idea. But at the same times, doubts and questions do arise because CPG as an industry has been around for the last 200 years, and we have seen people in the last, let's say, 15 or 10 years claiming and implementing AI technologies, machine learning, deep learning, these things into CPG and saying that okay, they are trying to revolutionize how decisions are taken in the CPG industry and stuff. So, really, the question arises that what is that that Samya is doing that is so different than all these claims that has been in the past? So, we really want to understand what is that Samya is doing different.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of noise in the market, right? So, a lot of people are claiming to do AI and machine learning, deep learning, and they're also claiming to apply it to different industries and more specifically CPG industry, because this problem that we are solving for CPG industry is a big problem, right? But we believe that we are bringing a very differentiated approach. We try to analyze what went wrong in the other approaches or what's going wrong in the approaches, right? What's happening is a lot of people who are applying AI, who are saying that they're applying AI and machine learning, are really applying traditional predictive analytics. They've had more like the BI DNA or the traditional analytics DNA and are trying to get into AI and machine learning. So they don't understand how to apply these methods very well. That's number one, because it takes a level of expertise to even apply how to look at deep learning algorithms in this space on operations data.
Sure.
The second thing is that they do not understand the industry in depth. Right? So understanding the nuances of the CPG industry becomes very important. How do the different functions work, the sales and distribution function, the pricing promotion function, and how the inventory functions work, the demand and supply operations, what are the different patterns, right? So the solutions were not very purpose built. And the third thing, that most of these solutions don't do is interconnect the silos or interconnect the demand and supply operations. And so when we looked at that, we said that our approach was actually designed to fill those gaps. And the first thing we did is that we make sure that whatever algorithm methodologies we develop is very contextual and very relevant to the domain of CPG and how the processes work. And so we bring a lot of deep domain expertise, because without that understanding, you can't really apply the machine learning algorithms or the deep learning algorithms and the AI methodologies just in a generic way. The second thing is we bring a very specific way of doing AI, which is at the intersection of deep learning that helps us tease out complex patterns, non-linear relationships, and latent interactions. Probabilistic machine learning that helps us account for variability, and then reinforcement learning that helps us optimize so that we can anticipate the risks and opportunities and react to that much better. And lastly, what we are doing is we are not just using AI as a way to replace human beings, we are actually incorporating human intelligence into our AI methodology. So we look at the past history of human decisions and the inputs that have been captured in the systems, ERP systems, the planning system, execution systems, and we bring that into our AI algorithms so that we can separate the human intuition and judgment from the human bias. And then we give back those recommendations and those insights to human beings. So we are empowering the human being. So it's human intelligence to the power of AI. And this combination makes us very different.
So, Deepinder, whenever we go out in the market, we talk to undergrads, grads, or even industry practitioners which have been there in the industry for long. Everybody has this opinion or view that AI is something which is going to replace humans in business or even business decision making. But this is the first time we are having this discussion where you are saying that Samya is something which is going to assist human intelligence in business decisions. So, how do you guys are doing that?
Yeah, so I think our perspective has always been is that the role of AI is to help human beings anticipate our blind spots, anticipate what things that we were not able to anticipate earlier, right? So the particular brand of AI that we bring to the table in all the algorithmic approaches that we apply is with that lens in mind. Right? I believe that when we human beings in the enterprise, we are frontline professionals, whether these are salespeople, whether these are pricing people, promotions people, whatever function that we are in, because there's a lot of change and complexity within the business on a day-to-day basis. There are exceptions that are happening every day. We're getting alerted as to what situations we should look at, what situations we should not look at. That tends to create a lot of blind spots, because as a human being, we are able to only address a certain amount of exception scenarios, a certain amount of decisions on a day-to-day basis. But because the complexity is getting much larger and the sheer volume and scale is becoming bigger and bigger, we need help to address those areas which naturally then come into our blind spots. And that's the role of AI in the Samya.ai context, right? And the way we do that is we do two things. The first thing is we help human beings and frontline professionals anticipate things that they might have missed, number one. We help them look into and predict that in the future, because although there are many technologies and many capabilities and products that are helping you react to what's happening today, there are very few capabilities and products and solutions that are able to anticipate what's going to happen 2 weeks down the line, 3 weeks down the line, 4 weeks down the line. If I could give you that capability, that you can anticipate an exception scenario, you can anticipate a risk on the demand side or the supply side well in advance, then you are more prepared to react to it, and you can maximize your job, you can maximize your decisions, and at the end of the day, maximize your organization's potential. That's the first thing. The other way that we help human beings is by separating the signal from the noise in the day-to-day decision making that we as human beings, and when I talk about enterprises and frontline professionals, I include myself, right? Because we all, we are all faced with that situation. So if we've all heard about cognitive biases in decision making, is there a way that AI can detect the human bias in our decision making versus the human intuition in our decision making? If we are able to do that, then we are able to give feedback to ourselves and other people as to, hey, whenever you make such decisions, here's the bias component. You're naturally inclined towards a certain level of bias, which you should, safeguard yourself from. If I get that feedback, then I'm more well informed. And by the way, here's your intuition that only you can bring to the table, right? And so if we can separate the signal from the bias, then our decision-making capability as professionals, as an organization as a whole, we start making more right decisions than wrong decisions.
Right.
And ultimately, we help ourselves as human beings, our customers, and the organizations as well. So those are the two ways in which we think about assisting human beings. We believe the role of AI is not to replace human beings, it's actually human intelligence to the power of AI.
Great. So now, Deepinder, definitely you have explained the role of AI, the role of Samya that is going to play in the field of artificial intelligence, and the viewers must be now very happy to know that AI is not going to replace them. So most of them, they have been into this sphere. There are so many articles coming up wherein it is stated that artificial intelligence is going to remove human from their different jobs. So the explanation that is well suited. So now, Deepinder, I would also like to ask you a few questions that would be very much in relevance to entrepreneurs, the startups. So when we talk about 6 million investment, so how many investors you had to visit or pitch your idea to?
So we went to a few, we went to 4 or 5 investment firms. Luckily we got term sheets from all of them. So we're just lucky, so my fingers crossed on that. But I think, it is, we had to choose one of the investors who we felt most comfortable with, and we also had to think about, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, the level of dilution we want to take, who is the best partner for the best stage, and obviously, we've been working with Sequoia Capital for a long while, and so we chose Sequoia. But I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, it is always good when you're talking to investors, it helps you in multiple ways. First, it helps you sharpen your own thinking, because investors will validate your idea. the kind of questions they ask is very relevant. So it helps you refine that, number one. It also gives you feedback as to how well prepared you are to embark on your entrepreneurial journey. So I always say that actually I work with many other startups because I'm an angel investor as well, and I see many investing cycles. I think interacting with investors is a very enriching exercise because you understand the market better, you understand what you are trying to do better, and it helps you improve. So even if you don't get the funding in the first go, right, it is always helping you improve, and eventually you will get there. Right, so if you persist, you will get there, and if you keep improving yourself, you will get there. But for us, we approached 3-4 investors, and we chose one of them to go with. Yeah.
Recently, we had seen this pitch deck that was shared by Mr. Ratan Tata, and he was explaining the significance of the pitch deck.
Yeah.
So, according to you, what should be the key elements that should be introduced in a pitch deck by any startup who is going to approach an investor?
Got it. So I think, I think 3-4 elements, right, that should have. It's not really the length of the pitch deck or anything that matters, as long as you hit some of these points.
Right.
One is there's a personal aspect, and then there's a personal aspect of who you are and why you're doing it. Right? You should come off as very real, right? So it might not be in the pitch deck, but it might be the way you interact and talk about. Right? Why are you interested in this problem? Why you and not anybody else? I think nowadays just talk about the founder market fit. That's very important. If you as a founder and entrepreneur, why are you well suited to solve this problem? Why do you have a unique insight into the problem? And why is it so personal to you? Right? That's very important. Right? That should come out to the investor. Apart from that, there are very other critical elements. How big is the problem that you're trying to solve? Right? What is the dollar amount associated with that problem, right? That big money slide has to be there because at the end of the day, you're solving a problem which is an opportunity that you're asking for money for, right? The investor wants to see how big that problem is. The second thing, what is your approach to the solution, and why is it very unique and something that very difficult for anyone else to do in a sustainable way, whether that's a product or whether that's a service. I think there are many ways of solving a problem. Why is your solution unique, either in a particular technology, in a particular IP, or the combination of elements you bring together to solve that? It could be a software as a subscription model, it could be using deep AI and machine learning methods, it could be blockchain, it could be different kinds of ways of solving the problem. Why is it unique? And why is this something going to give you sustainable returns to the customer, an advantage to the customer, and something that will be a moat, a competitive moat that other people will not be able to replicate so fast, right? And with the right speed to market, that's also very important. So these 3-4 elements are important, and why you'll be differentiated, which I talked about. Investors really, yes, they want to look at your business plan and how you build the team, etc. I think the business plan usually is something that you should have there, but it's not something that investors will focus too much, especially if it's an early stage company and it's a new idea that you're in the very early stage, say in the seed stage, etc. But the investor should believe in you. That you'll be able to build a business, you'll be able to build a product, you'll be able to assemble the right team, right? That's very important, right? So these elements, some of these elements might not be in the pitch deck, right? But these are very important soft elements that you should be able to communicate in your first meeting and your first pitches with investors.
That's a great insight, Deepinder. So thank you, Ankit and Deepinder, for this wonderful vlog. I hope that it was very insightful for all the viewers. Request you to please comment if you love the vlog so that we can go ahead with the discussions. Please like, share, and keep loving us. Thank you. Bye.